So remember I talked about the different deployment options depending on where you're deploying this to and what kind of environment you're in. So you really mainly have two options here. The first is the minimal installation, and this is for smaller deployments that don't require the scale or high availability or redundancy of a large production deployment. In the case of a minimal installation, you get a single instance of each virtual appliance, meaning one identity service, one VCAC server, and typically you'll have a single instance of the IaaS components. And this is done on a single Windows server, again, single instance, so each of the three pieces has one running. And this is really best for dev or test, so if you have a secondary environment that you want to test out some changes on before deploying to production, POC environments it's great for, or if you have a small deployment, the minimal installation works really well. There's just no redundancy in component failure, so if your identity appliance fails, right, you're going to have to use some other form of backup and recovery or replication, and there will be some downtime associated with it, so we're not doing any type of clustering. On the other hand, we have the distributed installation. This is a much more flexible installation and allows for much higher redundancy and performance of components. What this allows you to do is chain these components together so you can deploy multiple virtual appliances of each, multiple Windows servers with IaaS components installed. Again, for HA purposes, redundancy, load balancing, and performance reasons. This is really best for production environments, especially at large scale. So when I've come across customers or users trying to deploy VCAC, it's really in a mix of environments. And in some of those larger environments, right, you really want to do the distributed installation for those reasons. But a lot of times the minimal installation will work just fine if it's a smaller environment or dev test. So it's really up to you to figure out what the requirements are and also what resources are available. So in the next course, we're going to go through install config on this, and I'll show you the different minimum requirements for CPU and memory and storage. And they aren't very light, so you actually require a lot of memory and CPU to run the vCloud Automation Center components. So don't take that lightly in a sense that if you don't have a lot of resources in an environment, it may be best to go with the minimal installation if that fits your needs. Whereas for the distributed, you're going to need a lot more server-backed resources to actually host those multiple components. Just something to consider.